Hi, this is Alex Habersham, your host for A Call to Action. Happy to report to the community that we're going to be doing a series of interviews with all of the mayoral candidates in an effort to keep the community informed on the important issues surrounding our city and our county. So tune in and join us for A Call to Action interviewing the mayoral candidates. Look to see you here. Hello, this is A Call to Action.
A Call to Action.
And I'm your host, Alex Habersham, continuing my series of interviews for the mayoral candidates. Like I said, leading up to the rest of the interviews, it's important that the community is informed. It's important that the community gets to know the candidates. It's important that the candidates get an opportunity to state their position, their platform, and where they are. It's important that the candidate gets the opportunity to say what he is going to do, since it's all men, to move this community forward. So this is really the fifth of 6 interviews that we're doing, and I'm happy to have with me today Mr. Charlie Bishop, who's got a broad range of experience in public service, including, well, I'm going to let him tell about it. So let's begin by just talking a little bit about yourself and your experiences.
Well, I was born and raised in Macon. I went to the public schools here. I went to Alexander II in grammar school, and then Lanier Junior High, and then Lanier Senior High. And then I went away for 3 years in the military, because at that time there wasn't any hope. So either you had to have money or you didn't go to college. So I went in the military and spent 3 years in the military, and I got out, and I spent, after that, 35 years on the police department. But while I was on the police department, I prepared myself by going to college on the GI Bill. I was the first pilot for the city of Macon, and I was a traffic cop, and then I was in the detective bureau for the majority of my career. I went up through the ranks. I was detective sergeant, detective lieutenant, detective captain, the first internal affairs officer. Worked in the corruption investigations in the 70s with the feds, and we cleaned up the Macon Police Department and made it a very #1 police department. And I became the commander of detectives after being the first internal affairs officer, and then I was, of course, promoted to deputy chief of police and served several times as acting chief. But I wasn't a politician enough to be the
You
chief.
learned late in life, huh?
Right, and I always resented the fact that a part-time politician could come in with 4 years and try to tell the chief how to run his job, and that's been a problem with the police department in Macon recently. So anyway, and then I ran for a district commissioner and was successful in District 4. At that time, they redistricted District 4 and split it up into 3 parts, and drew the line for one of my competitors so he could get re-elected to office. In fact, one of the guys went down and paid his fees to enter the race and got him off the job and brought him in. And so I decided I'd run countywide then. I said, if they took my district, I might as well. So I ran countywide as the chairman was successful in getting elected again by a pretty good vote. So that's pretty much sums it up. Then, of course, as chairman of the county commission, when I went in, we immediately were faced with a disaster, so to speak. Brown & Williams was closing down, and we were losing some high-paying jobs, and also industry associated with supporting Brown & Williams. So I had a 5-year financial study done, and it was done by our financial officer at the time, Bill Vaughn. And I talked to Bill, and we had the projection came back. We were going to be $900,000 in the hole. We were going to be bankrupt as a county. So I told Bill, I said, we need to get a splash pass to pay off all debt, to free up the money. And so we did. And the people were down on the SPLOST, but it passed overwhelmingly. We got a SPLOST passed. We paid off all city and county debt. And we paid off some old school bonds that the county commission was responsible for. But I didn't stop there. We went out and we started working on economic development. We brought in approximately $618 million in new and expanding businesses. 4,054 jobs were created. You know, you can go right around, you can see the result of those jobs. The sales tax increased by $1.6 million. So with that being said, that money started coming into the city. They just got through spending it. At the end, because of the increased revenue, we paid off the SPLOST early. We saved millions on the jail. $31 million, I think, was the figure that we came up with. If we hadn't passed the SPLOST, we'd have been paying on the jail into 2025. So we paid all that off. So then it came time to make the decision. I told the voters we'd only use the money to pay off debt. So they came to the decision where we had excess money because the SPLOST was running longer than the amount of money we needed. We had completed all projects. So it would be only fair that since SPLOSTs are made to provide property tax release, that we give the money back to the property tax back to the property owners. We did that. We started doing it. I asked the city to do it. They didn't do it. They spent the money. They even refinanced an old emergency van that was to the tune of $180,000 had been paid off before in the SPLOST. And they continued to spend the money. And it was a good time for them. And they wouldn't have any reserve today if they hadn't spent that money. But they failed to advertise the SPLOST as an increase in sales tax, increase in tax for the city residents, and that was exactly what it was. So that pretty much says what I did. Now, what am I going to do today? I'm going to put the team back together. We had a team that involved the MEDC. We had somebody we had the superintendent of the Board of Education on the team. We had the Industrial Authority. We had the Chamber of Commerce. We had the Macon Water Authority on board. We had a team that was second to none. And it was ombudsman was not Chip Cherry. Anyway, we had an ombudsman, and he was key in bringing in industry, and then we had to sell it to the people. I was so effective, I felt, that when we brought Nichiha in, I developed a relationship with the Japanese. One of the guys out there, his name is Cass. He went back and told his grandmother about me. She could no longer make haikus. So she took one of her old haikus and sent it to me.
What's a haiku?
Haiku is a poem. It's poetry. It's very valued in the Japanese culture. And it's an art, too. It's an art form. And she sent that to me along with a letter, and it was about cherry blossoms.
Right.
So I still got that plus the personal letter from the Japanese. But we brought in Bass Pro. When I say we brought it in, the team brought it in. Charlie Bishop didn't do anything by himself. I always tried to surround myself with people a lot smarter than I was, including financial advisors and other people. And so we brought in Bass Pro, we brought in Nichiha, we brought in Kohl's Distribution Center, Kohl's Department Store, worked with signalization for the new mall out there. Go out there and look around the new mall today and look at the tags. You won't see very many Bibb County tags, but you see that sales tax coming in from out of town. That's the only revenue we're getting now, because what's happening is in the companies, because of we failed to train our workforce, like at Geico. They have jobs available at Geico today. People can't fill out the application, so you know who's getting the jobs. People from out of town, they come in here and they work and they leave. We've got to make downtown Macon attractive. We've got to stop this. We've got to stop this blight around the city. There's a donut around the city. You're familiar with it. there's some places out there that look like third world countries. And all you gotta do is go out where they're talking about bringing the 2nd Street corridor in, go over the bridge, go on out Houston Avenue, look at the trash pile high, look at the vacant buildings, small businesses going out of business. We've got to work together to stop that blight, and I think we can do that. We've got to work on the crime situation. You don't solve crime by hiring anybody that walks in for a job to be a police officer. You got to have an attractive pay and benefit package in order to bring those people in that are educated and that can work hard to do the job. You got to provide money to the sheriff to train and maintain and have equipment for those officers to work with. And they're not going to work for nothing. I mean, I don't think you would go out there and get shot at for a few nickels. And so we've got to make it attractive. We've got to stop the crime situation. We've got to clean up the city of Macon. It's really terrible the way we've let it go. I've got an old Jeep. I pull a sign around town, and there's some streets that you can't even hold it in the road on. It'll bounce the trailer off the back of the Jeep. One of the prettiest areas in town, I'm sure you've heard of it, Stanislaus Circle. I went around it the other day. It was bouncing my sign up and down so bad that, I mean, we've really let things get run down. And we've quit paying for stuff that we need to be spending the tax dollars on, and we use them to divert them for other things. We're acquiring property, taking it off the tax digest, making government buildings, and once you take it off the tax digest, it's a perpetual cost. There's no good deals when you buy a closed down bank. No matter how cheap it is, you've got to pay that tax, sales tax that comes off the payroll. So that coming in, the tax payroll coming in, so somebody else, you or me, has to pick up the difference. And right now, business people in downtown Macon, every time Bibb County or the city takes over a new piece of property, the others have to catch up the slack. We need to stop that. We need to stop spending like we're doing. I'll give you another example. The other day in the paper, the sheriff said it's going to take $1.6 million to bring them up to par with the city police, with the county. And they developed a new pay plan at the city, supposedly. You hear all the time people taking credit for a new pay scale. Well, what it did knock them out of kilter. So now you've got some officers with disparate pay. You've got some of the high-ranking officers making more than the county officers. But a lot of you low, and the pay scale is compressed, and there's a big problem with that. The sheriff said $1.4 million, and in the article it said, that most places, before they consolidate, they do a pay plan. They do a forecasting. They do a 5-year budget, just like I did. And they find out what the liabilities are. They don't hoodwink the public until after the election and say, woe is me. If we'd only known this, we're going to have to raise y'all's taxes and say, hey, there's a caveat in here. I know the law says we've got to drop it down by 20%, but guess what? It also says in that same law that if it's a necessity, that doesn't apply. And you've heard people allude to that. I looked at what the sheriff said, and here's something for you to ponder. The police and firefighters have parity. So if there's 1.4 million needed to bring the police officers up, then that means there's probably 2 million to bring the firefighters up to the pay scale. None of them on Social Security. So that's 7% more that you've got to pay. You've got to pay 7% more to put them on Social Security. Of course, they have to contribute 7% too. Then the catastrophic effect it's going to have on the pension fund is going to be unheard of, because the projections made for the pension fund by the actuary is based on 3% a year over a period of years. And if they equalize these salaries and they get them up,
Right.
then you're going to have a problem there.
Okay, I want to deal with a couple of more issues.
All right.
And that's very good, and it shows that you've got the experience and you've done some other things, but what I'm trying to do is to just address some of the issues. Some of them you've already addressed very, very effectively as it relates to the community. And those 3 things are quickly economic development, okay, education, and community unity. And when I say community unity, you can address them. We could do them one at a time, or if you remember them, you could do them all, because you do a good job of talking on coach. But we're going to talk about economic development, what we're going to do to improve this community. And like you said, you know, and as you would agree, we've got the infrastructure in this community to move it forward.
Sure.
You know, we got water, we got the interstate, we got universities, so we need to talk about for a minute, if you would, you know, what can be done to congeal, if you please, these entities so it can move the community forward. So let's just do them one at a time and take about 2 or 3 minutes on each. So we'll give the viewers the opportunity to know where the candidates feel on all of the issues.
Okay, number one, Bibb County, Macon-Bibb County is the hub of economic development. I've heard somebody saying we're going to make it the hub. It has always been the hub of economic development. We bought the land for the Warren Robins Air Force Base. We came up with a clean air plan to make sure that we didn't lose any expansion of the base out, that we didn't lose that mission. We came up with a plan to acquire the land in the non-attainment area with federal funds. All that relates to economic development. We've got some parks still available. Number one, we need to fill up the vacant buildings with small businesses. We need to work on small businesses. We need to give some incentive to kickstart small businesses. The other area, like I said, you've got to clean up those areas so it's small businesses that close down. And I've got a plan for working with the sheriff to do that. We need to bring in a state patrol post here, put it in Macon, Georgia, give the sheriff some release, happy. But getting back to economic development, which is the main thing, that is my area of expertise. I saw where there was one of the candidates was touting bringing in Tractor Supply. Lord have mercy. Compare that to my record. Compare it to the record of my administration. I mean, when you lose something as big as Bryan and Williamson, which we couldn't control here, there's nothing we could have done to keep Bryan and Williamson. It was gone when I came in office. The decision had been made. So look at what we did during those 4 years after that. Everybody says that you don't talk about what you've done, talk about what you're going to do. Do you go to a surgeon that had never operated on anybody? I don't think so. I know how to bring in economic development. There's no problem with it. The reason they don't want me to talk about what I've done in the past is because they haven't done anything. Tractor Supply, Lord have mercy. I applaud them for getting it here. It was built on a place we developed out there. The Water Authority developed that park out there. Eventually, the Korean plant will come. The tire place, tire manufacturer.
Or something like that.
Come
on, whatever.
Anyway,
we know what
Kuma Tire.
Yeah, Kuma.
You know, it's going to eventually come to fruition, which will be 400 plus jobs. I'm going to work on that. I think the people trust me. That's one of the things I was able to develop with the Japanese. They had been looking at Macon for some 5 years. We had several meetings with them, talked to them. I did everything I could do. The one thing I did follow-up meetings with them after that. The one thing they were very disappointed in was, and they told me, said they had high expectations of the workforce, but they had hired at 150% employment and was only doing 30% production. We've got to have better employees. We've got to train a better workforce. And when I talk about education, I'm talking a lot about that more than anything else, because we can't do a lot about the school system. They've got their own board. There's very little we can do in that area. They have the control of their budget. So we can give a lot of mouse service to it, but in actuality, it's the responsibility of that school board, and y'all elect them. We elect them. So we need to hold their feet to the fire or get them out of office. again, I know how to bring in economic development. I know how to work as a team player with Pat Toppin. Pat Toppin was an ombudsman, and Pat needs to be given the reins again because he was good with that. And when you have somebody that's good, you don't kick him to the curb. You support him. You need somebody from the Board of Education because you know when we can't bring those companies in, we have to give them an incentive package. That's where the expertise comes in of an experienced person. We know what to give and what not to give. We have to work with the power companies because the Tennessee Valley Authority can give power incentives. Georgia Power can't.
Yeah.
So we work, and I know how it works. Even before I got on the team as chairman of the county commission, I was on there. I was a representative from the water authority on the board. So I've been working on economic development a lot longer than these guys have. And one thing that gives me advantage too over the other candidates is that I've worked for both the city government and the county government. Nobody else can claim that. So I know how to work.
Let's talk a little bit about, it seems to be quite a bit of division in the community. Now, I know you say that there's not a race problem in the community. I think you were quoting.
Well, and
That's saying that. I know, that's okay.
Let me tell you about
No, let me finish answering my
Okay.
question. But I want to know, because it seems that not only racially, according to some people, but maybe geographically and civically and community-wise, it seems that there are too many divisions, if you please, in the community. You know, that's what's been suggested and purported. So I think that everybody agrees that the community would be better served if we all worked together and came together. So just what would be your suggestion to pull the community together?
I think you got to lead by example. I don't think one person can really make a whole lot of dent in that because there's some white people that don't like me. There's some black people that don't like me. But I like everybody. I mean, I'm not the type of person to say, well, I mean, it's just hard to describe. But I've had some life-changing events in my life, too, that makes me a little bit nearer to, and in my age, you start looking around and you want to be able to leave here. And you know, you might be out of place if you have people that hate each other and can't get along with each other, can't work together. They're going to have a lot of time to spend down there. They ain't going to be worried about getting along down there. So they need to forget the racial divide and start worrying about the hereafter. Because I'm telling you, I don't like to see race exploited. And I see that a lot of times at election time. And they'll use it one way or the other. They may even team up. You may even have a black candidate team up with a white candidate. And they say, well, you work this and I don't do that. I'm the same Charlie Bishop when I go over there and have breakfast with my friends at the, we finally call it the Greasy Spoon on Baby Avenue. I don't think the owner would appreciate that, but we eat there. There's a diverse group there. Some of them are Jack Ellis supporters. Some of them are Robert Ricketts supporters. And I don't know how many of them there are my supporters, but they're my friends. At breakfast, they're my friends. And I'm that way 100% of the time. So when you say there's a racial divide, I think by example, you wipe that out. I don't think any person can go around. I don't think, Jesus Christ came here and died, and he didn't stop all the divides. So, I don't know. I can't promise that I'll be any better than the next man, but I can tell you that I'll lead through example. And that's the best thing, because I think people, black and white, trust me. They trust me at my word. And I've had somebody else use that phrase, but in every one of my campaigns, I've said integrity is one of the most important things in government today, and without the public trust, you can't get anything done. And that's the truth. Anything you do, if you lose the trust of another individual, it don't make any difference what race you are. Then you've lost a friend, you've made an enemy, and you've created more to divide the community. And I think that's been done a lot in this election. I think some of my opponents have some of my opponents in this race have said, I'm the only one that can beat this candidate. I'm the only one that can beat this candidate. I'm telling you, Charlie Bishop drew 29,100 votes in both races in 2004 and in 2008. I lost in 2008, but I drew the same amount of votes. If I can draw the same amount of votes again, and a lot of those are black votes. A lot of those were black votes in both elections. So the people trust me. I don't want to create any problems. I want for any of the other candidates, if they want to do that, if they want to try to separate the races so they can get in office, then so be it. But it's not going to be good for the community. Like you say, we need to work together. Everybody likes the same thing I like. They want jobs. They want what's good for their community. They don't want to be scared in their homes. They want safe streets. So I'm telling you, I can work to make that happen, and I can lead by example. And I think that's what we need. We need a good community working together. And you're right, but the only way to do it is to lead by example.
Okay, you got 3 minutes to just kind of look in your camera and tell the community.
Which camera?
It's that one right there. Okay. Tell the community, you know, what you're going to do, what your platform is, and why you feel you will be the best candidate for mayor of the consolidated government.
Well, and I thank you for letting me be here today for, number one, to get this message out to the people. But I'm Charlie Bishop 100% of the time. Born and raised in Bibb County. I know I'm the best candidate for the job. I hope I can convince you to get out and vote for me on September the 17th. I hope you'll go out and vote early on August 26th. And keep in mind that I want the same thing you want. I want jobs for our community. I want growth. I want lower taxes. I want safer streets. I have to know how to do that. I have to know how to bring it about. I've done it before. I've got a proven track record. Look at my record. When I ran before for chairman, the paper got my personnel file from the city of Macon and did an article on it, and they couldn't find anything wrong. I've never had my integrity questioned. I don't intend to do it this late age in life, but I tell you what, I work for the taxpayers and the citizens of Bibb County, all of them, black and white, and I want the vote black and white. I don't want the vote split along racial lines. I want people to get out and vote for Charlie Bishop. And thank you for having me here today, Alex.
Thank you, Commissioner, for coming in, Chairman. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Haversham. I want to thank again Charlie Bishop, who's a candidate for the mayoral position for the consolidated government. Thank you, and best wishes to you.
Thank you.
www.makingblackpages